Hi, I'm Kate Cohen-Posey, and I'm back with a handy brain model. And joining me today is Lana Tame, who is principal of Kathleen Elementary School. And we're here to show you how to use your brain to tame bullies. Nitsa is behind the camera, and he may be jumping in from time to time. So Lana, I know that schools have policies for dealing with physical bullying. But what do you do when somebody says, Billy the bully told me I was dumber than a rock, and Billy the bully said, I didn't say any such thing?
Well, you're right, Kate. We do have policies for bullying in our schools, and we take bullying very seriously. And our guidance counselor actually told me about your book in a training that he attended several years ago. And he received a letter from a student recently who's all grown up and in college, and her letter talked about the strategies that you use and the strategies that he taught her in elementary school, and she used them again in middle school and high school, and now as a grown-up at college. So I'm very excited to be here today. What suggestions and strategies do you have that we can be using in our schools?
Well, first, I'm so glad you're asking me for suggestions, but I did forget to mention, not only have I brought the handy brain model, but my books are here, How to Handle Bullies, Teasers, and Other Meanies, and Making Hostile Words Harmless for Adults. But suggestions for targets of bullies are very important because teachers and principals don't have eyes and ears everywhere. So generally, experts on bullying first talk about why people bully, or they list the different types of bullies. I think it's really important to understand what is happening in the brain of the bully, right hemisphere, left hemisphere. And the story starts with the amygdala. The amygdala is right here in the limbic system. The frontal lobes curl around it. It's here in the limbic system. And that is your center for fight and flight.
Yes, I have heard of the amygdala and your center for fight and flight. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Well, the fight and flight response, again, it's started by the amygdala, and it creates a chain reaction that goes straight to your adrenal glands in your back. And guess what hormone is released by the adrenal glands?
Adrenaline, right?
Absolutely,
Yes.
Adrenaline.
Yes.
So what adrenaline does is it constricts blood vessels in the front part of the brain, and that shoots blood to your arms and your legs, arms for fighting, legs for fleeing. And without blood in the forebrain, that makes people temporarily insane or stupid.
So I can see how a lack of blood flow in the frontal lobe can cause someone to be impulsive and not think about what they're saying or what they're doing.
That's absolutely right. Now, the person who's been a target of the bullying, maybe been told she was dumber than a rock, what do you think she's doing about now?
She can either call him a knucklehead or some other name, or she'll withdraw and become quiet and completely shut down.
And I bet sometimes they say, Miss Tatum.
Oh yes, I hear this all the time. And I will talk with students, counsel students, and help them change how they react to the situation so that it's a positive ending for both the person that feels like they're being bullied and for the person that is bullying.
Okay, well, let's see what those three responses are doing in the bully's brain. So the tattling response, Miss Tatum, so-and-so called me a knucklehead. That response in the bully's brain, the bully's either going to be afraid, but you don't seem like a really scary principal.
I try not to be.
Or they'll get even angrier. So that's going to keep the bully right here in his amygdala. If she calls him a name back, like you're a knucklehead, then that's really going to fire up this amygdala.
Absolutely.
And so what happens if she withdraws and is silent? The bully's brain is in fight or pursuit mode. So adrenaline's going to keep driving his brain to possibly come out with even more vicious comments. So that's why the advice to ignore bullies often does not work. So let's find out what does work. I'm going to show you some responses that will turn off the adrenaline faucet in the bully's brain. The AAAH acronym stands for the sound that breathes calm into life's cruelest moments. So come at me with a typical put down that a kid might say.
Oh, you're dumber than a sack of rocks.
You know what? That is the first insult I've had today. You must be a leader. Can you come back at me?
Yeah, I think that kind of stumps them. It shuts the situation down, and that would be a perfect response.
Excellent. Okay, so let's find out what that response is doing to the bully's brain. So I did 3 things. I smiled.
Yes.
I gave you a thumbs up.
Yes.
And I admired you. I told you you were a leader. Now this is what's happening in the brain. Those are bonding moves. And when I make a bonding move, I'm admiring you, I'm smiling at you, that gives the bully a pinch of oxytocin.
And oxytocin is the bonding hormone between mothers and babies, right?
Absolutely, but scientists are now finding out that men, like Nitsa, also have their own version of oxytocin, and that a smile, a gentle touch, kind words also release oxytocin.
So how you respond to an unwanted comment can actually change the brain chemistry of someone that's making the comment to you. So they're moving out of the amygdala and into the, what part of the brain did you say?
Well, that's just where I'm getting to. So the brain can change. This is the big thing going on in neuroscience now, that the brain is plastic and it is changeable. So where the oxytocin or the bonding center is, it's right here in the hypothalamus, that's right here, and the pituitary gland. Both produce oxytocin. They're right underneath the thalamus, and they're tucked in here deep in the center of the brain. So you're getting that pinch of oxytocin, and what that does is it blocks the neural pathways going from the amygdala, which is over here. Its journey down to the adrenal glands goes right through the bonding center, the oxytocin center, and when you get a bunch of oxytocin there, it blocks those neural pathways. So by using kind words with cruelty, you're really turning off the adrenaline faucet in the brain. So just to review, the first A is to admire a bully. That strengthens the bonding center of the brain. Why don't you slam me again and I'll show you the second A response.
Oh, I heard you failed the 2nd grade.
You know what? You have good hearing. You heard right. But do you know how failure can create success?
Well, I wasn't expecting that response, Kate. That's another good example of how to respond when you're in that situation. Well, what strategy is that called?
Okay, so the second A response is to ask questions. And asking questions creates a completely different scenario in the brain. What they do is they put somebody in the center of the brain for deliberate thinking. These are the frontal lobes, and the center for deliberate thinking is on the bottom layer of the frontal lobes. It's called the cingulate, which means band, and it wraps around this limbic system like a band, and that also shuts down the amygdala. So there's your second A. Go ahead and slam me again.
You idiot, you got the wrong answer for our team.
Wow, you sound really furious. I don't blame you. Success is winning is so important. Did I admire the bully, or did I ask a question? What do you think the third A is?
Well, the third A, I think you kind of affirmed how I was feeling.
Feeling, that's right. So the third A is active listening. And active listening either labels what people are feeling or it rephrases what's going on with them. And that's a very powerful thing to do. You see, the right hemisphere, the right brain, has no verbal centers. They're all over here in the left brain, right about here. So when somebody from the outside accurately labels from their left brain what's happening in somebody's right brain and matches it, that also calms down the amygdala. Now, this active listening really needs to be your first response when somebody's really angry. That's because their brain is in what's called a refractory state. And the right brain in particular cannot take in any information that doesn't match what it's feeling. So until it gets some mirroring from somebody outside to calm it down, it's sort of stuck. It's going to go over and over. So that outside mirroring helps make the switch from the right brain to the logical left brain. And we want to strengthen that logical left brain. That's the third brain area that we really want to empower. Okay, now it's time for the H response that makes the ah. So, why don't you hit me again?
You're in a class for dumb people.
You know what? I think you should keep trying to make me feel bad until you decide to stop. Okay, so do you know what that was?
I'm not sure. What was that?
Okay, the H stands for hidden hints. And did you catch the hint in that sentence? I think you should keep trying to make me feel bad until you decide to stop.
Yes, you said to keep trying and then stop.
Yes, I suggested that you should try to stop, but I snuck it in there.
Yes, I like how you did that.
Yeah, okay, but there was another hint in there that's much harder to catch, and that's the word try. So when you tell somebody, you can try to keep upsetting me, you're implying that they're not succeeding. You're hinting that they're not succeeding. So that's a second hint. But I did something else too. I used reverse psychology, which I'm sure you're very familiar with.
Oh, yes.
And I told the bully to keep trying to keep doing what I don't want him to do. Now, what does that do to the brain? When you tell somebody to keep trying to do what they're doing, that's going to confuse this fatigued right brain that doesn't have much blood, and then you can start connecting with the left brain. So that's how reverse psychology works. But I think it might be a good time to have a nonverbal demonstration of what we've just been doing. We're going to do an Aikido exercise. Aikido is the martial art that contains the force coming at you. I'm not going to do it right away. First, we'll do what typically happens. So I want you to push me off balance. Whoop, you did a great job. Okay. Now, I want you to try to push me off balance again. Okay, so why couldn't you do it?
You weren't giving me any resistance.
Oh, you are so smart. Okay, a lot of my clients have trouble getting that. Okay, so when kids make the typical responses and someone calls them a name, they have a name back, they're doing this, stop bullying me, you're doing this. But when you say, I think you should keep trying to upset me, you're doing this. So that's a nonverbal demonstration.
I just thought of a question.
Yes.
So when someone is giving you resistance, calling you names, that can also change the other person's brain chemistry. They can go into that amygdala area and react back, or they can not give resistance.
Right, and let's do it the other way for a second. Okay, so you do what I did. Don't give me resistance.
Okay.
Okay, but stay with me because you want to stay in contact with the boy. Okay, good. Who's doing all the work?
You are.
Okay, now put your hands down.
Uh-huh.
That's why, and we're going to get into why ignoring isn't such a good thing to do.
All right, I have a question.
Oh, excellent.
Okay, so basically, when I had a situation with somebody calling me names, I basically reacted with "you're right." You know, it's just like my hands were kind of to the side, but not in a fighting stance. But you're right, and they came up like, "I know I'm right." Well, like I said, you're right. So was that kind of like the resistance?
Yes,
Pushing?
you did not give them any resistance. You said, you're right. And then they pursued you a little bit more. Yeah, I said you were blah, blah, blah. And you said again, more emphatically, I know you're right. Now, here's a test for both of you. Which A was that? Was that affirming or admiring? Was it asking a question, or was it active listening?
Affirming?
Affirming, yes, you're right. Agreeing with people as part of the first A. So that's a wonderful example.
Yeah, because by the time they finished, they were yelling, I know I'm right. And you are. Have a great
You
day.
are, yes, and hand gestures and everything.
It's like, congratulations.
You see,
And
you're-
sometimes you have to just keep doing it
Yeah.
until they change from that adrenaline into the
until into the, I need my brain on again, until they get into, that's coming from the bonding center.
right. Oxytocin, that's the word I was
And have
The
you
oxytocin.
Yes.
and have you ever heard the term walking off like a boss? Maybe the kids maybe use it.
No.
No. It's kind of like it's like you won the conversation. It, ultimately, in the end, like I said, you win. You're right. Bye. And you walk off like a boss. You know? In your mind, it's
So
like
you should
they're-
be recording you doing
Yeah,
that.
no, right? They're sitting there scratching their head like, huh? What just happened?
Yeah, and in your mind, you're thinking, okay, so I'm walking off
Yeah,
like a boss.
I've won
by
that.
saying-
I've won that situation.
Right, okay. Now, I'm glad you're saying that. This really, we want to get out of the winning and losing paradigm, and we want to think of bullies as needing first aid. And so we're training kids, perhaps we'll get into adult bullying, spouses of bullies, to give first aid, like your mother did. She gave first aid. And your mother was your first teacher, and that's what really stuck in your mind. My mother was my first teacher too, and she had no idea that she was going to spawn a whole big approach on this. But, okay, so I think you had a question about assertiveness.
Is assertiveness a part of the Ah model that you use?
Well, you tell me. I'm going to tell you some typical assertive responses, and you tell me what you think of them.
Okay.
So if I say, I want you to stop bullying me, what do you think that will do to a bully's brain?
That would probably get them more amped up and fired up and ready to go further.
Absolutely. Now, suppose I go a little softer and I say, you know, when you say those things to me, it really makes me feel bad.
That would probably also get them amped up because they're really not caring about your feelings and they're going to want to hurt more.
Lana, that's really been my experience too. Unless you have a very strong bond with the person who's bullying, they really don't care how you feel. And an angry amygdala, down here again, simply cannot comprehend other people's wants or desires.
So that leads to another subject.
Okay.
Does the Ah method work just for kids or does it work for adults too?
You know, it is so important for adults. I mean, adults can model this for children. So, co-workers, spouses, your clients, all can be perpetrators of bullying. And as an adult, you want to be able to calm them down too. So how about if you give me an example, you be a person who's maybe giving you a hard time, and I'll be you.
Okay.
Mhm.
And after all, adults are just grown-up kids. I was just thinking about this while you were talking. If we can teach children these strategies while they're younger, this will prevent adult bullying because they will have these strategies that they've been practicing all of their lives.
That's absolutely an excellent point.
Yeah. So I had a situation that happened just this week.
Okay.
We have procedures on how parents pick their children up at school, and we are done in 15 minutes. Everyone gets to the car line in 15 minutes. Well, the other day, there was a dad that pulled up going the wrong way in traffic, pulled into a parking spot, and wanted to pick his child up without having his car tag. And so I had to jump in right then and there and say, either you need to get in the car line or you need to come in the office. And he was very upset.
So what did he say to you?
Well, he told me that the procedures were stupid, he shouldn't have to follow these rules, that he's here to pick up his child and there's nothing I can do to prevent him from taking his child home.
So, Mr. Smith, You just said, number one, that my procedures are stupid and that you shouldn't have to follow the rules. And you're just trying to be a really good dad and pick up your child. And it's so frustrating to have rules like this. They must be the most annoying things in the world. And I am so appreciative of you for being willing to put up with them and venting your frustrations towards me. Okay, so time out, guys. So what was I doing? What to the A's or H's?
You were actively listening to
Mhm.
what I had said.
Mhm.
You were validating my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You were giving me hints.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Affirming,
you were using all of the
affirming that he
strategies.
was a good father.
Affirming that he was a good father.
Yes,
Yeah.
versus like you're an awful dad for doing things the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah, so all you guys together got all of them. Again, it's rephrasing what he's saying, the act of listening, telling him he's a good dad. Didn't throw a question in. I probably put hints in because honestly, I am a hypnotist. So I'm always hypnotizing people whenever I can. So, okay, so that, you think that would have been different or would have worked?
Oh, I think that would have worked. Yes.
Okay, so we're hoping that this video will be helpful to you. If you want to get the Handy Brain Model, you can find that on www.handybrainmodel.com and place an order. And if you want to learn more about these strategies, this is a great book for families. It's really written on a child's level. And then Making Hostile Words Harmless is for adults. It gets into a lot more of the theory, even brings in the Eastern Aikido philosophy into it. So it's been a pleasure being with you today.
Thank you, Kate. It's been a pleasure being with you too.